You can remain standing for the hosting the colors of the national anthem. To start out, we'll remain standing for just a minute or so for our fallen Afghanistan and Iraq Montana soldiers. Thank you. be seated. What we have here, each one of those families received a folded flag. I think it's necessary sometimes to be educated of what that means. Yes, we know those were fallen soldiers. But the fold has roughly 13 folds when the families are handed this flag. The first fold means the symbol of life. The second fold is our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veteran departing rank who gave a portion of his or her life for the defense of our country to attain peace throughout the world. The fourth stands for our weaker nature as American citizens trusting in God. It's to Him we turn to in times of peace as well as war for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to America. In the words of Stephen Decatur, our country, in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but it is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is where our heart lies. It's with our flag that we pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic it stands for. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is the armed forces that protect our country and flag against enemies, whether they be domestic or foreign. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death, that we might see the light of day and to honor our mother, for whom it flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to the womanhood, for it is through their faith, love, loyalty, and devotion to the character of the men and women who have made this country great have been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to the Father, for He has given His sons and daughters for the defense of our country since he or she was first born. The 11th fold is in the eyes of the Hebrew citizens, represents the lower portion of the seal of the King of David and King Solomon, and glorifies in their eyes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold is in the eyes of a Christian citizen, represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies in their eyes God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And when the flag is completely folded, on the 13th fold, the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our national motto, in God we trust. May we always know how valuable our flag is and what it truly stands for.
A few moments ago, I placed a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And as I stepped back and stood during the moment of silence that followed, I said a small prayer. And it occurred to me that each of my predecessors has had a similar moment, and I wondered if our prayers weren't very much the same, if not identical. We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And I wonder, in fact, if all America's prayers aren't the same as those I mentioned a moment ago. For all we could ever do for our heroes is remember them and remember what they did. And memories are transmitted through words. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise. We see them as something like the founding fathers, grave and gray-haired. But most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. always someone who is remembering for us. No matter what time of year it is or what time of day, there are always people who come to this cemetery, leave a flag or a flower or a little rock on a headstone, and they stop and bow their heads and communicate what they wished to communicate. I think sometimes of General Matthew Ridgway, who, the night before D-Day, tossed sleepless on his cot and talked to the Lord and listened for the promise that God made to Joshua. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. We're surrounded today by the dead of our wars. We owe them a debt we can never repay. All we can do is remember them and what they did and why they had to be brave for us. All we can do is try to see that other young men never have to join them. Today, as never before, we must pledge to remember the things that will continue the peace. Today, as never before, we must pray for God's help in broadening and deepening the peace we enjoy. Let us pray for freedom and justice and a more stable world. And let us make a compact today with the dead. A promise in the words for which General Ridgway listened: I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee.
Thanks for coming. Thanks all you veterans and your families for coming, and everybody in our school and our community to come help celebrate our Veterans Day. Two words that come to mind with our veterans, our active service, and even our fallen is commitment and adaptation. Today we celebrate our Veterans Day in knowing that our veterans and our service people have made a decision in their country and follow through with that commitment. And that's something we can all learn from, as we just heard in a short speech by a former president, that we can remember, and in our commitment to remembering, that we too can focus on their sacrifice and their service, and in turn do what we can to serve others and to serve each other, and to keep that our focus and our commitment. Any commitment requires sacrifice. Veterans sacrifice their time, their moments with their family, and certain conveniences that we might take for granted. Some even ultimately sacrifice their lives. Veterans have made a commitment to follow the call to serve their country and are unconditionally engaged in the task given to them. The commitment requires a sacrifice. Our veterans have denied themselves to serve others. Serving in this personal sacrifice are fundamental elements of a call that they accepted. Our veterans are very reliable, and they're examples to help teach us about how to serve and sacrifice through the commitment that they made. And they perhaps lived through sufferings, but they kept soldiering. Serving as a soldier, they did not get entangled in disruptions or anything that would take their focus away from their commitment to demonstrate perseverance and strength and to serve those that they served with. Their hard-working attitude built grit that provided endurance to accomplish their mission, their vision, and the goals for the sake of all of us, so that we may continue to live in our conveniences and our freedoms. You can't predict the future. You can prepare for it. And these men and women have prepared for it. And they always relied upon their preparation and their process, because the end result was never a for sure thing. And in that, perhaps when there was pain, there was suffering, there was disruption, they fell upon the process of which they were taught in their training to fulfill their mission with due diligence and excellence. And that's what they did. They committed So please let us do our best to commit to our veterans, our service people, and to each other, to serve each other in a selfless way, not a selfish way, to always perhaps think more about others instead of ourselves, and focus on what we can do to build up and edify each other. There was a saying that said, "Let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification, that it may impart grace to the hearers." Let's do things to serve each other and to edify, to build up, not to tear down. And we're thankful for our veterans and their families because that's what they've done for us. Now I'll ask Vietnam veteran Jim Korth and Jenna to come forward to present their statements. Please welcome them to the stage.
Thank you all. I'm just going to share a couple words from Senator John Tester. Thank you to all of the students and staff at Belgrade High School for putting on this important event and allowing me to share a few words. In Montana, we have a long history of service. In fact, more Montanans per capita serve in the armed forces than almost any other state in the country. When folks are in need, Montanans are there to answer the call to duty, regardless of if it means deploying across the world or responding to emergencies here at home. As the ranking member of the Veterans Affairs Committee, I am pushing to make sure our country lives up to all those who have served. After holding dozens of listening sessions across Montana, I worked closely with President Trump to write and pass 7 important bills into law that will hold VA leadership more accountable to veterans, as well as tear down the barriers that have kept veterans from accessing timely care at the VA and in their community. Montana's veterans signed up to protect our freedoms and defend our country, and when they return home, it is our turn to stand up for them. We still have a lot of work to do to deliver for our veterans, and I will continue to fight for our veterans every day. Together, we will continue to make progress, improve access to care at the VA, create more opportunities, and deliver on that promise to all those who have served. Thank you for taking the time to recognize our veterans today. Events like this are critically important because they help the next generation of Montana leaders better understand the sacrifices veterans have made to defend our freedoms. To the veterans and their families, thank you for your service. And please know that if you are ever in need, my door is always open. Again, thank you, take care, and please keep in touch.
Back to a tall person. Senator Daines couldn't be here this morning, but he did send this letter for me to read to you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to join you today as you commemorate Veterans Day in honor of the Montanans who have served our great nation. Of the 320 million people currently living in the United States, only about 6.5% have ever served in our armed forces. 750,000 of those served in World War II, 1.6 million in Korea, 6.7 million in Vietnam, and 7.1 million from the Gulf War to present time. And many of these brave men and women call Montana their home. In fact, Montana leads the nation in veterans per capita. As the son of a Marine, I've always had a deep appreciation for those who serve our nation. And while serving in Montana Congress, I have had the great privilege to meet many veterans and learn their stories. It's an honor to represent them in the United States Senate. I have partnered with the Library of Congress to help collect, preserve, and make accessible the personal accounts of the Montana wartime veterans. The Veterans History Project is an important way we can ensure future generations can hear direct from veterans about their experiences and the realities of war. Contact one of my offices if you want to share your story. The stories of Montana veterans are incredible and ought to be preserved. Dr. Joseph Medicine Crow served as an Army Scout during World War II and fulfilled the requirements to become a war chief. Ben Steele, a Montanan who served in the U.S. Army Air Corps and was captured by the Japanese. He was a prisoner of war for 1,244 days during World War II. David Thatcher, he took part in the Doolittle raid and was awarded the Silver Star. If you've ever seen the movie 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, you have seen Robert Walker play the part of Corporal Thatcher. We owe a debt of gratitude to men and women like Dr. Joseph Medicine Crow, Ben Steele, David Thatcher, and many others. They serve to ensure freedom for you and me. That's why this year I led a bill in the Senate to designate 3 VA facilities to be named after these Montanans, to preserve their legacies and serve as a reminder of our nation's heroes. Our next generation has so much to learn from our veterans' bravery and courage, and I appreciate that you have gathered here today. Thank you for allowing me to share a few thoughts. Thank you very much, and God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Next, we'll have one of our veterans address everybody. Our next veteran was actually born in Montana, here in Butte, Montana, over the hill. He was in the Reserve Officer Training Corps, ROTC scholarship, over at Montana State University, and graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering in '87. Upon his graduation from MSU, he was commissioned as Second Lieutenant United States Air Force and entered active duty in July 1988. At the completion of his first USAF assignment, he earned his Navigator Aeronautical rating and the associated wings. From 1990 to 1996, he flew EF-111As as an electrical warfare officer, including 24 combat sorties and Operation Desert Storm. He then flew Weapons Systems Officer in F-15Es from 1996 to 2004, including combat missions in Iraq and Afghanistan. During his flying years, he was stationed at Mather Air Force Base in Sacramento, California, Mountain Home Air Force Base in Mountain Home, Idaho, Cannon Air Force Base in Clovis, New Mexico, Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in North Carolina, and Osan Air Force Base in the Republic of Korea. For his final assignment in the USAF, he was stationed at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, where he taught air power subjects at the Army's Command and General Staff. Following his retirement as an active duty in 2008, he was hired as a teacher in Belgrade, Montana. He is now in his 10th year of teaching in Belgrade Middle School. He's married to his lovely wife, Carol, and they have 2 grown sons, Sean and Connor. So please welcome Mr. Jim Tweet.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, veterans. Good morning, students. Good morning, parents. Good morning, teachers. What an incredible ceremony that we do every year in Belgrade, Montana. As Mr. Damjanovic said, I served 20 years in the United States Air Force, retired, and I became a school teacher. And a couple of years ago, a 7th grade girl said, "Mr. Tweet, what is your favorite song?" And I didn't have a whole lot of time to think about it. And so I said, well, you know, I really like that song, "A Long Line of Love" by Michael Martin Murphey. And I don't know if you've ever heard it or not. It's called "A Long Line of Love" by Michael Martin Murphey. But I would encourage you to listen to it someday on YouTube or whatever. It's a really cool song. But that song is not my favorite song. After I had a time to think about it, it occurred to me that "A Long Line of Love," although it fosters the emotions of love and family and heritage, there's a lot more to life than just those emotions. There's the emotions associated with, I had to write these down so I would remember, the associated emotions associated with pride and honor and dignity and sorrow and respect, as well as love and heritage and family. And so the song, ladies and gentlemen, that conjures up those emotions inside of me is the Star-Spangled Banner, our national anthem. That song brings forth those emotions inside me. And I can't help but hear our national anthem without thinking about some of the times in my life where that song was played or sung, and it was very special. One of those times was when I was in Air Force Combat Survival School at Fairchild Air Force Base, and that song got played over the loudspeaker, and there was the flag, and that was amazing. And another time was standing up here. Well, actually, I wasn't standing here, I was sitting down there. Lorinda Stokey was standing up here as a sign language interpreter, and she did the sign language for the bombs bursting in air. I can't hear those words without seeing Lorinda Stokey standing right here, going like this. And one of my proudest moments as a father was at a baseball game in Bozeman, Montana, when my son Connor was playing for the Bozeman Bucks. And I had the privilege of announcing that particular baseball game. And I got to say, into the microphone, as the announcer, I got to say these words: "Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your caps for the singing of our national anthem by the first baseman, number 5, Connor Tweet." So not only did he play first base, but the kid could sing pretty good too. And for his dad to be up there on the microphone as the announcer, well, that was a pretty special day. And so this is the second time I've had the opportunity to give a presentation here on Veterans Day. And if you remember from last time, those people that were here, I left you with 2 challenges. I talked about challenge coins, or as we refer to them in the Air Force, RMOs, round metal objects. And those 2 challenges that I gave you, the first challenge was to our veterans. And that challenge was echoed today by the statement from Senator Daines that our veterans have a story, and that story is worth telling. And so I would encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity that Senator Daines and his staff have provided there for you to be able to tell your story, because it is an incredible story, and it's worth telling. And the second challenge that I gave was to the folks that aren't necessarily veterans, and that is to ask the veterans to tell their stories. Because some people won't say anything unless they're asked. And not only is the story worth telling, it's worth listening to. And so today, ladies and gentlemen, I have 2 more challenges for you. And the first challenge is to our veterans. And by accident, when I did this last time, I placed the coin on the platform here, and it fell down, and it made a pretty cool sound. So I'm going to do that again. It sounded cooler last time. So that challenge is to our veterans, and the challenge is to tell people what our national anthem means to you as a veteran of our great nation. And the second challenge is to everybody, and that is to know the words to our national anthem, know what they mean, and know why they are a part of that incredible song. And I want you to refer to the Star-Spangled Banner not as the national anthem. I want you to refer to it as our national anthem. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
know we're going to take time to recognize our veterans who are here today in attendance. So you know who they are, and you know what they've done, and we can perhaps then have time after even to greet them. But we'll have a presenter do this, and I want to introduce our next guest to do so. She has been in the Army Reserves for 18 years. She is a lieutenant colonel, currently the commander of the 7246 Medical Support Unit in Omaha, Nebraska. She travels to Nebraska once a month for her Army duty. She is an occupational therapist for both the Army and the Belgrade School District. She is a Montana native, graduated from Manhattan High School in Manhattan, Montana. She has a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from Rocky Mountain College in Billings, and a Master of Science in Occupational Therapy from Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, Missouri. She has served on active duty status in several Army hospitals to include Landstuhl, Germany, Walter Reed, Tripler Army Medical Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. She lives over in Cardwell, Montana, and is married to Byron Edwards, and they have a 6-year-old son named Tommy Edwards. So please welcome Lieutenant Colonel Questa Edwards.
Good morning, fellow veterans, students, staff, and Belgrade public. So honored to be here today when Andy called me and said, I think I'm trying to get a hold of Questa Edwards, Tommy's mom. I knew exactly who he was because Tommy and his son went to preschool together here in Belgrade. So it was an honor for him to ask me to do this. This Belgrade School District does such an incredible job. I'm very proud to be a part of this great staff and work with so many wonderful students. So at this time, I'm going to recognize our veterans and tell you a little bit about them. So bear with me, and you're welcome to applaud either after I say their name, and I will wait, or you can wait till the end as well. So we will start with Jesse Adams, Army National Guard, Sergeant E5. Jim Tweet, Air Force. Lieutenant Colonel. Phil Lockhart, U.S. Army, First Lieutenant. Bobby Crow, Army, Lieutenant Colonel. Army, Sergeant. Eldon Ackerman, Air Force. Earl Edmonds, U.S. Army, Sergeant First Class. Jim Korth, Navy, Sergeant. Breck Halford, Air Force, Staff Sergeant. Lee Williams, Navy, Petty Officer, Third Class. Paul Neidhart, Army, Specialist. John Gostad, Army, Sergeant. Skip Lee, Navy, E5. Arlen Toxley, U.S. Navy, E5. Roger Stadley, Army, Sergeant Green Beret. Captain. Robin Blixit, Army, Lieutenant Colonel, Army Nurse Corps. Tina Colston, Army, Sergeant. Bob Coleman, Navy, E5. Robert White, Air Force Airman First. Sorry, I didn't get a tech lesson before this, so. Mason Grawl, U.S. Marine Corps Corporal. Shane Heisen, Air Force Tech Sergeant. Robert Gibson, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant. John Edwards, U.S. Air Force Sergeant and Coast Guard Commander currently. Nicholas Dickens, Army Sergeant. Randall F. Lentz, Army Airborne Sergeant. Donald Tucker, Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. Clayton Smith, Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. Robert Stolk, Marine Corps Corporal. Clarence Clickema, Army, E4. Louis Fisher, Army, Specialist. David Chung, U.S. Air Force Sergeant. Donna Alexander Chung, Coast Guard Petty Officer, 2nd Class. Jesse Mulvey, U.S. Navy, CS3. Dan Ritter, Marine Corps, CW4, which is Chief Officer. Jim Matter, Army, Spec 5. Donald Johnson, Army, Sergeant 3rd Class. Lyman Jansen, Army, Specialist. Lloyd Campbell, Army. And someone I served with for over a decade, Nancy Sanders, Lieutenant Colonel. Ron Dykstra, Air Force, Airman. John Houghton, Marine Corps, Lance Corporal. Travis Volkman, Marine Corps, Corporal. Perry Schultz, Army, Sergeant First Class. And I won't mention myself because I'm on the list next. So you got all the information. Cal Hookman, Navy, Petty Officer, Second Class. Jeff Owens, Air Force, Captain. Dennis Hoffman, Marines, Sergeant. Don Czar, Navy, E4. Richard McLaughlin, Army, E4. Robert Baker, Army, Sergeant First Class. Ted Campbell, Air Force, Colonel. Harry Armstrong, U.S. Marine Corps, Sergeant. Staff Sergeant, stand corrected. Matt Johnson, Army, Specialist. Doug Crumpler, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant. Kelly Smith, Army, E5. Patrick Prund, Army, First Lieutenant. Seth Chesley, Army, Sergeant. Ralph Araya, Marine Corps, Sergeant. And now we are very honored, and it's with distinct honor that I was, at the last minute here, told I was to introduce the oldest veteran in the state of Montana. Ernest Hoffman will now come forward. We would like to present something to you, Ernie. He is also a graduate of Belgrade High School, has lived in Belgrade his entire life, except when he served in World War II. He joined the Army in April of 1942 at the age of 28, and answered the call of duty. He was taken to Butte, Mass, as most of us have been there if we served, and they assigned him to a radio company. And he said, no, this isn't for me. And at that point in time, he joined the 334 Field Artillery as a mechanic. And he served with honor in World War II at the Battle of the Bulge. This is an incredible honor that he's here with us today, still living independently at home with his wife. And he is able to be here with us and wear his uniform with pride, and we're going to present him with this plaque. of our United States Armed Forces, Ernest Hoffman, your dedication to our country, its military, is commendable and honorable, in addition to the fight for freedom throughout the world. Thank you, Belgrade School District 44, given the 11th day of November, 2017. If he wanted me to say anything else, and he just said, 1, thank you, and 2, he's been married to his wife for 69 years, Doris. When Ernie returned home from the war, he went to work for Danhoff Chevrolet. He worked there for 25 years. And after that, he ran a small business, or a small engine business until he was 97 years old. Ernie is 103 at this point in day, and we're very honored to have him here with us. Definition of a humble veteran, just saying thank you to us for us being here today. Again, thank you all. It's been an honor and a privilege to be able to announce your names. And it's people like Ernie and the rest of you that inspired me to join after I was finished with graduate school. So I joined the service and have not regretted a day since. And I'm still serving and will serve until they kick me out and tell me I'm too old. So. With that, thank you, and I do apologize if anybody's names were not pronounced correctly. But again, thank you all, and thank you all for coming and taking this time out of your day to say thank you.
Our next presenter and speaker attended and majored in aeronautical engineering as well. During that time, his draft lottery came up as number 4. Instead of being drafted in the Army for 2 years, he enlisted in the United States Air Force. Serving in Vietnam in 1972, his unit was attached to the 1st Marine Air Wing, 12th Marine Air Group, as a composite unit during the Easter Offensive. He was with the U.S. forces during the Siege of An Lac, where he was wounded. He is the recipient of the Purple Heart, Vietnam Cross of Gallantry, USAF Outstanding Unit Award with V device for combat operations, Vietnam Campaign Medal with 1 Bronze Battle Star, Vietnam Service Medal, National Defense Medal, Good Conduct Medal, and Air Force Longevity Award. He was appointed to the Department of Veteran Affairs, Secretary's Office Advisory Committee for the Center of Minority and Veterans, and charged with providing advice and consultation to the Secretary of Veteran Affairs and the Congress of the United States on the needs, concerns of minority veterans with respect to the administration of veteran benefits and services. After retiring from his regular job in Federal Express, he became a full-time staff for the Secretary of Veteran Affairs and advisor to the Congressional Committee of Veteran Affairs. He was a liaison on congressionally chartered veteran service organizations and the White House concerning minority, Native Americans, and female veteran health care benefits. He retired from the board of the directors of the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation in Washington, D.C. In 1993, he implemented, coordinated, and managed the Whistle Stop Tour and transported the Vietnam Women's Memorial across America. He also helped coordinate the dedication of the Vietnam Women's Memorial, where it now rests on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., across from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall. He moved to Belgrade, Montana, and is currently the Senior Vice Commander for the Department of Montana Military Order of the Purple Heart, and Commander of the Eastern Montana Military of the Purple Heart Chapter in 2016. He also is a member of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Disabled Americans, American Legion, the Honorable Order of Kentucky Colonels, and is also a Freemason. His wife Donna, who is with us today, is a United States Coast Guard veteran and served in Iraq. Please welcome Purple Heart recipient David Chung.
Good morning. Glad to be here. This is my second time around. I remember being up here on the stage last year. Your school, bar none, is one of the best veterans programs that I've ever attended throughout my entire life. My hat's off to all of you who put this together. Andy, I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me. I'd like to start off by saying that we as a nation have many, many, many different faces. Who are we? We've been honoring veterans. We've been honoring our nation. But I'd like to go a little different direction, because one of the reasons why we serve is because we honor all of you. All of you sitting in this audience today, especially a lot of you younger students, represent why we serve our country. We serve our country because you are the most important part of the future of this country. The future of this country are in your hands. You are the future leaders. You're the future tradesmen, college students, professionals, the arts, trades, and craftsmen who build this country, who lead this country. And it's our job to protect you. When we raise our hand and we say we will fight, preserve, and protect the Constitution of the United States, we're talking about you. Because we are the ones that protect you. We are the ones that have to make sure that you have a future to go on with your lives. We also do it because it teaches you how to respect yourself, learn more about yourself, love yourself, have a remorse, keep the moral high ground, and for all of you, one day, a little romance in your life. We all have a love, not only for ourselves, but for each other. That is the reason why we serve. A lot of people don't understand the military as a whole. All of us serve this country because we're not here to practice democracy. We're here to protect it. That's why we sacrifice a certain part of our lives to make sure that you can practice democracy. All of us here are here for one reason: to make sure that you, as leaders of this country, make sure that we maintain our freedom. Make sure that we have the ability to educate everybody about the history of what this country has gone through. The military is one of the few places where it is a conglomeration of many, many people from all walks of life. White, black, Hispanic, Asian, Native American. There's a lot of history to the military, which involves everybody that creates this country. We have the 442nd Combat Regimental Team. They were all Asians. They served in World War II. We have the Red Ball Express, which were African Americans who served in support and logistics for General Patton. We had the Tuskegee Airmen. We had MIS, which were a lot of Asians who served fighting the Japanese who were American citizens during World War II. In Vietnam, we had a lot of people from everywhere. In my particular unit, we had a gentleman who was Vietnamese who came to our country many, many years ago, became a citizen, decided to enlist in the Marine Corps, and was an American Marine fighting in Vietnam, but his heritage was Vietnamese. So you look at the person sitting next to you, get to understand who they are, where they're coming from, what they want to do with their lives, understand their goals. Because if you don't do that, you can never understand yourself and educate yourself about what you need to do as far as your future is concerned. For those of you who go into the military, understand that it is a sacrifice. It is a lot of hard work. The majority of us who serve do it because the millions of you don't have to. Understand that those of you who don't serve, we are few. As was mentioned earlier before, we, the living veterans, active military, and let's sprinkle a little law enforcement on the side of this mix. We only make up 6.5% of the population of the United States. We are the ones that protect you because you are the ones that are the most important. You are the ones that we care for. You are the ones that are going to be leading us in our older years and making sure that our country remains free, prosperous, and great. I want to thank all of you for being here, honoring all of us who have served. Every single one of you makes a contribution to who this country really is. Men, women, aunts, uncles, sisters, brothers, cousins, grandfathers, we all represent a nation of everybody who comes here and wants to be part of the heart and soul of who we are. One of the things that is rarely done is that we honor veterans, but we need to honor ourselves as a nation. You need to stand up and cheer, not only for the veterans, but for yourself and this country. Without this country, without the freedoms that we have, a lot of things go away. Your ability to dream about your future, your ability to look at the future and accomplish that goal. Even little things. We have the highest technology and the way of life than anybody else in the world. Without the freedoms, it all goes away. It disappears. So look at everybody sitting around you and honor them, because they are a part of this country. They are a part of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming, and happy birthday, Marine Corps. Is that what it is? Yeah, happy birthday, Marine Corps. Before we go, let's give our veterans and their families a big farewell as loud as we can to thank them for their service. Thank you all for coming. High school and junior high kids, please come down and welcome and say thank you to our veterans if you have time before you leave. Thank you again.
Yep.